Hey everybody, my name is Alex with Hake Hardware, and in this video we are going to set up Node Exporter as a service on Ubuntu 24.04. So this guide will enable us to report system metrics to Prometheus, and then Prometheus can pass those along to Grafana, and then in Grafana we can import the Node Exporter dashboard and view all of our system metrics in a really cool looking dashboard. So it sounds like a lot, sounds complicated, not too complicated. If you want to learn a little bit more about what Node Exporter is, I have a link here in this wiki, which will be linked in the description of the video. And then there are a few prerequisites. So in order to set up Node Exporter as a service, you have to have Prometheus running. And here's a guide to set up Prometheus as a service for Ubuntu. You can also run Prometheus in Docker if you already have Docker. Eventually, I'll have a link to that guide, but I haven't quite finished it yet. And then you should also have Grafana connected to Prometheus. So I have a few different guides on Grafana, so you could host it in the cloud through Grafana itself. You could deploy it in a Docker container, or you could run it as a service in Ubuntu. So if getting kind of a theme here, most of these things you can run as a service in Ubuntu if you want to kind of stay away from Docker and running things in the cloud. All right, so the first step is going to be navigating to the Node Exporter download page, and always look for the latest tag. Sometimes they'll have like beta or pre-release versions, depending on the type of product you're looking at. But we're gonna look for the latest. That's typically what you want. And then for me, I have a modern system that's running Linux, so I'm gonna look for uh, AMD 64 is what I'm gonna want. And just be careful. There's ARM 64. It looks almost the same and it's always next to it because like alphabetically it's similar. I've definitely downloaded the ARM one by accident. It's not going to work on an AMD or Intel processor. So make sure you're getting the right one. I'm going to right click and copy that link. And then I'm just going to switch over to the terminal now and I'm going to be copy pasting or typing in these commands and I'll kind of explain each one as we go through them. So let's hop in the terminal here. We are in Bob and first thing we're going to do is download that Node Exporter version. So we'll do wget -p and then a little tilde and a slash. So basically that's saying we want to download the file to the home directory, and then I'll just paste in that link to the tar.gz file. If I do ls, we can see we have Node Exporter listed here. And we can just extract that with tar-xvf, and then you can do autocomplete typically, so I'll just tab that to autocomplete, and you can see it's been extracted. So then we'll do sudo move, and we'll do a little tilde here, Node Exporter, so that's to the folder, and then we actually want to do a slash, and that's the Node Exporter executable, and we're going to move that to the user local bin. And you need sudo with that because that user local bin is owned by sudo. And we can actually remove the two files, or the zipped file, and then also the folder that we unzipped. So you can do rm-rf, do a little tilde there, and then you can put an asterisk. So that'll delete anything that starts with Node Exporter 1.8.2 Linux AMD 64. And if I do ls, you can see all those files are gone. Now we're going to want to create a system user that is specifically going to run our Node Exporter service. So we'll do sudo user add -r, that is a system user, -s bin false. That disables shell access. So even though it's a system user, we also want to make sure it doesn't have shell access. Then we'll do -c, so that's a comment, and we'll just do node exporter service account. That's just a note or a comment that we leave just to keep it organized. And then -d / non-exist. Oh, holy cow. Existent. So it's basically saying set the home directory explicitly to a non-existent directory. That way we're just locking this account down so it can't do anything other than run this service. So we have, then we're just using we're specifying the name. So Node Exporter is going to be the name of this user. Okay, perfect. And what we want to do now is make sure that the Node Exporter executable has the user that we just created, Node Exporter, has ownership over that. So we'll do sudo change owner or chown Node Exporter, Node Exporter user local bin, and then Node Exporter. And then now we're going to create the actual service itself. So sudo nano etc systemd system, and then node exporter.service. And honestly, if you're following the wiki, you can just copy paste these in. I'm typing them out just so I can kind of explain a lot of times what I'm doing. And then I am going to copy and paste this, which is the service. And all this is kind of just, you know, pretty common. The main thing you want to see here is we're executing the Node Exporter executable here when the service starts. So I'll do Control X, then Y, then Enter, and that'll save that service file. And we want to reload the daemon so that that new service that we created, it knows that it's there. So sudo systemctl daemon reload, and then we can start Node Exporter. So sudo systemctl start Node Exporter, and then we always want to just make sure that it actually started and it's running. So sudo systemctl status Node Exporter, and we can see that it is running, and you can say it's listening on port 9100, but it's disabled. And what that basically means is when we reboot, it's not going to automatically start this service, but we actually do want that, or I want that. I mean, you can leave it off if you don't want that. Sudo systemctl enable Node Exporter is how we turn that on. And it creates that symlink, and if we do a status again, we can see now it says enabled. So when we reboot the computer eventually, we're automatically going to start the Node Exporter service. Okay, now we need to add to our Prometheus config the job for Node Exporter. So if you used my guide to install Prometheus as a service, you're going to have this config file at sudo nano etc prometheus.yaml. And I already have some things in here, so I just always go to the bottom, do a little enter to give it some space. And again, I'm going to just copy paste this in here. So what we're doing is adding a new job, and that's going to be Node Exporter. Because Prometheus, which is running as a service, is on the same host that I am running Node Exporter, I am using localhost 9100. Now for instance, I'm just going to put Bob here. So I usually put my host name for the instance. And now so you can actually hook up like 5 Node Exporter targets. Like let's say I have Bob, who has Prometheus running as a service, and then I also install Node Exporter as a service and have that running. I can bring that in as a target. Let's say I have another host, Flexo, which is another one of my hosts. I can run Node Exporter as a service there and then publish metrics and have Prometheus on Bob scrape those metrics. You would just put the actual IP address internally. So usually it's like a 192.168, address or something like that. You can actually just put the internal IP address and Prometheus will scrape those metrics from all of your computers. So you only need Prometheus running on one host on your network, and you can just update the config so that it imports the metrics. It scrapes the metrics from all those different hosts on your network. But for me, I only have one right now. It's going to be Bob, and we're going to do Control X, Y, and Enter. And now we need to make sure that we restart Prometheus, the service. If it's a Docker container, you want to go into Docker and restart the Docker container. Sudo systemctl restart Prometheus. And then I usually like to check it just to make sure, because I've goofed up those YAML files before. So sudo systemctl status Prometheus, and it's enabled and running. Now, there's one more thing you can do just to be super duper sure that everything's working good, and that is go back to the browser. And what you're going to want to do is go and open up Prometheus, the front end. So 192.168.69.99.90.90. I know that's where my Prometheus is installed. Wherever you have Prometheus installed, go to it, and then go to status, targets, and you're going to look for Node Exporter. And you can see localhost 9100 metrics. It's up, instance Bob, job Node Exporter. We're good to go. So we know for sure that not only is Prometheus running, but it is able to scrape metrics from the Node Exporter endpoint. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to close that one out. And we are up to importing the dashboard. So now we're going to go into Grafana. So whether you have a Grafana cloud, if you have Grafana as a service or Grafana in Docker, you're going to open up your Grafana instance. For me, it's cloud. And you're going to go to dashboards. And then you're going to go to new and then import. And you're going to type in 1860. So just to double check that I have it correct. Yep, 1860 in here. And this is the dashboard ID for someone has built a pre-configured Node Exporter dashboard that we can just load. So you can also build things from scratch. I've built dashboards using the Node Exporter metrics because they have so many metrics in this dashboard. You're going to see there's just like so much. I like to pick and choose, and you can actually pick metrics from each of your instances. So if you have like 5 hosts connected with Node Exporter and you just want to see the CPU in a dashboard, like the CPU usage for each of those hosts, you can create a new dashboard, just import the CPU usage for those 5 hosts, and you could then monitor all 5 of them on one dashboard instead of having a separate Node Exporter dashboard for each instance. So I'm talking too much. I'm just going to do load. And because I already have one of these running, I need to just make things unique. So I usually just put like dash, whatever the host name is, if I do it that way. And then when you set up Prometheus and you connected it as a data source to Grafana, you just want to make sure you're selecting the correct one here. If you have more than one, I've got a bunch because I've been doing some testing. And then I'll do import. And this is actually what's interesting is even though I selected Prometheus testing, it went to my default, so I have to change to Prometheus testing, and we've got our host Bob here. And because Bob just started, you can see there's not much in the way of metrics, so don't freak out if you're like, there's nothing here. If you just connected it, then it's not going to have a lot of metrics. And you can reduce the time period here to like 1 hour, and you can see now the metrics are starting to populate here. So we're looking pretty good. You're going to want every time you make a change, you can do edit and then save dashboard. And then if you want it to stay at 1 hour, you can just update the time, click save. And by default, it's 1 minute. That's probably fine. I don't really see a need, but you can do like 30 seconds, 5 seconds. It gets a little too crazy with 5 seconds. I prefer like 30 seconds. And then if you have these like dashboard links, I think if you do settings, links, yeah, you can like remove these and then save dashboard, back to dashboard, and now they're gone. So they kind of get in the way here. But you can see like if you had more than one host connected to this data source, you could actually select the different hosts. So it's pretty cool. I don't know that like why I would switch jobs here, but either way, you can select different hosts if you have different hosts. And there's so many metrics here. Most of these I honestly never look at, but they're here if you need them. And yeah, so now you can monitor your system. And I'm in the cloud, so really if I'm like traveling or anything, I can just log in and check my systems and see everything. I don't know if there's an app. It'd be pretty cool if they had an app, but that way I could check it on my phone. Something I'm going to look into. But you can do more than just dashboards. You can create alerts. There's a lot more that you can do. This is just scratching the surface. Okay, that's it. So hopefully that was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.